Hello everyone, it's Robin DeGroot with TLC Truth, Love, Creativity. And today I am doing the recording on Zoom, so I'm trying the virtual background. This is a background I had made before, which says express your heart, but you just see express heart. That's okay, I don't mind. I did want to say that this whole kind of transformation that's happening with the society is bringing me also to a point where I really have to do a lot more of my online expression and basically just be more consistent with the podcast, the videos. So I'm actually really glad that I am doing that, and my goal is to do something daily starting from now. So I will have a radio interview segment for the next few Fridays, and I might put that into the rotation as well. But I'll definitely just keep up with the videos. I might be trying different things with backgrounds and all of that as well. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was this idea of transformation in this kind of worldwide event. And someone in my energy work group made this piece of writing. Not sure where she found it. It was shared, and it's really kind of awesome to me. So anyway, this is an imagined letter from the COVID-19 virus to humans. Stop, just stop. It is no longer a request. It is a mandate. We will help you. We will bring the supersonic high-speed merry-go-round to a halt. We will stop the planes, the trains, the schools, the malls, the meetings, the frenetic, furied rush of illusions and obligations. They keep you from hearing our single and shared beating heart. The way we breathe together in unison. Our obligation is to each other, as it has always been, even though you have forgotten. We will interrupt this broadcast, the endless cacophonous broadcast of divisions and distractions, to bring you this long breaking news. We are not well. None of us. All of us are suffering. Last year, the firestorms that scorched the lungs of the earth did not give you pause, nor the typhoons in Africa, China, Japan, nor the fevered climates in Japan and India. You have not been listening. It is hard to listen when you're so busy all the time, hustling to uphold the comforts and conveniences that scaffold your lives. But the foundation is giving way, buckling under the weight of your needs and desires. We will help you. We will bring the firestorms to your body. We will bring the fever to your body. We will bring the burning, searing, and flooding to your lungs that you might hear, we are not well. Despite what you might think or feel, we are not the enemy. We are the messenger. We are ally. We are a balancing force. We are asking you to stop, to be still, to listen, to move beyond your individual concerns and consider the concerns of all. To be with your ignorance, to find your humility, to relinquish your thinking minds and travel deep into the mind of the heart, to look up into the sky, streaked with fewer planes, and see it, to notice its condition, clear, smoky, smoggy, rainy. How much do you need it to be healthy so that you may also be healthy? To look at a tree and see it, to notice its condition. How does its health contribute to the health of the sky, to the air you need to be healthy? To visit a river and see it, to notice its condition, clear, clean, murky, polluted. How much do you need it to be healthy so that you may also be healthy? How does its condition contribute to the health of the tree, who contributes to the health of the sky so that you may also be healthy? Many are afraid now. Do not demonize your fear. And also, do not let it rule you. Instead, let it speak to you. In your stillness, listen for its wisdom. What might it be telling you about what is at work, at issue, at risk, beyond the threats of personal inconvenience and illness. As the health of a river, a tree, the sky tells you about the quality of your own health, what might the quality of your health tell you about the health of the rivers, the trees, the sky, and all of us who share this planet with you? Stop. Notice if you are resisting. Notice what you are resisting. Ask why. Stop. Just stop. Be still. Listen. Ask what we might teach you about illness and healing, about what might be required so that all may be well. We will help you if you listen. And this was from Margaret Pineda Mata in my bioenergy group. So that just really struck me as a different way to think about everything, that when our regular societal lives are interrupted, then we can see how nature is actually so important. And I know this is devastating for certain people and families and people who are passing away and who are suffering with sickness. I don't want to belittle this at all. I'm also huddled up in my home and want to keep the transference down as little as possible. That's why I'm doing a lot more online. And just want to share different options for people if they have fears. Again, it's very valid. There's so much income being lost. I'm in that boat too. I really get anxious near the end of the months, almost every month, because I am an entrepreneur and I don't necessarily have everything fully running as much as I've always been trying to build. So I totally get that. I'm hoping that the assistance from the government will truly be happening on some level. And then we all have to help each other as well in families and neighborly ways. I know someone here in Tucson just posted that they were actually setting up a whole free delivery grocery service for seniors, which I thought was awesome. And the grocery stores, the health outlets will all need help eventually. I may look into that if they really do need new people. And I do have a health background, so I'm not sure if they would be able to do sudden training for something like that, but if they need to implement testing and things like that, I would be open to it. The other thing is managing your own anxiety, which is something that I have my own experience with, and your own immune system. So I know there's differing opinions on this about herbs and sunlight and whatever. I'm just like, I don't think it's ever a bad idea to be working on things that help your immune system. I don't think it's great to think that if you're sick, you're only going to heal from those things. So as much as I am a holistic practitioner and I do energy work and all these things, I also recommend going to allopathic medicine when you definitely need to. And right now the protocol is to call in, I'm pretty sure. So then they can assess if you need to come in for a test or not. But what I know from my own experience with immune conditions is that I have had kind of a weak lymphatic system most of my life, and then I've dealt with Cushing's disease, which I didn't even know I had for many years. So a huge thing I did was always work with diet. So not just herbs and superfoods, which came much later. It was actually about sensitivities, intolerances, and allergies. Now, I was so young when I actually started to work with diet with my mother, and I didn't really have allergies necessarily, but I had pretty intense sensitivities and intolerances. And because I stayed away from things that were already showing up to cause me problems, I actually don't have any allergies now, as much as I know. So that's actually really good. And I do think for people who do have allergies, you still have to kind of go underneath and try to build immunity as you're trying to find the culprits that are still triggering histamines and all of those things. And that reminds me that I wanted to say some updates about certain things I've done videos on. And one of them was the celery juicing I was doing. So I started doing the celery juicing in June of 2019, just about around the time when I went to the Harvard Club of Boston and did my speaking event, sharing the stage with Suzanne Summers at that time. So that was an awesome event, but I had just started the celery juice and I had already followed Anthony William, so it wasn't just the fad. So like, yes, the book came out and I did have a juicer already. I've done juicing in my life for different reasons. I've also moved to the blender. So in certain ways I wasn't doing juicing because I was mostly doing the whole food with the fiber included, a little bit more like Jeff Primack's philosophies with smoothies. But then I understood what Anthony William was saying with the juicing of the celery is because the celery salts has a very detoxifying effect without all the fiber. So anyway, I gave it a good run. I did it until probably February this year. And then I decided to take a food intolerance test. And part of it is because over the years that I was living, the last few years in California, I lived on the peninsula rather than the South Bay. And so many things happened in my life in those few years that I couldn't quite put my finger on what was going on, but my eczema, which I had when I was a child, much more on my arms and hands, it was definitely starting on these three fingers. So I kept having it on mainly the last two fingers. So my ring finger and then the baby finger of my right hand. So it would get really bad. And I just thought maybe it's the water. The water is different and something in it is triggering my fingers. Now, there's also a meaning with your fingers. And I think this is children. This is kind of a certain schools of thought, but children is your baby finger, your relationship is the ring finger. I think it's yourself is the center finger. Siblings might be this one, or this could be interchanged, and then parents is your thumb. And there's other meanings to it as well, because I know that this is the triple warmer. So in acupuncture, there are body representations with the hands and the feet. So that goes to if you're doing shiatsu on the feet, and also if you're doing reflexology. So reflexology is quite intense because it's really deep, but shiatsu can be, it can be pressing. It doesn't have to be as extreme as reflexology. But it's because there are relationships with all the nerve endings in your hands and your feet to parts of your body. So I do know that I have been watching the heart system and lungs, and I think it's lungs, but kidney. I have to check what's in the triple warmer. Triple warmer are these major systems and organs. And with the integrative medical doctors that I've been taking some hormones and supplements with, they were helping me with certain systems as well, including iron, because I tend to have iron deficiency anemia. So anyway, I was doing a lot of these things for years and years, not much change with some of it. So I decided to take this food intolerance test. It's not necessarily allergy test, that's what they say. And they also say they've got like the green, yellow, and red, which are things that there's like 750 different things, foods, additives, which is what I chose, the one with additives, and minerals if you're deficient or not. And then if they show up at all, that means there was something good, medium, or bad, kind of. But then if they don't show up at all, it doesn't even have an effect. So it's actually fine. So that was an interesting way to take it. And it makes sense because it's when there's an effect and they have tested all these different things. So I had some surprises, let me tell you that, because when I was younger, I was quite resistant to commercial cow's milk. So I had my tonsils out around the 5 years old when I had so much congestion from cow's milk, and I didn't really know about the cow's milk when I had my tonsils out. I just knew that I had always had earaches and ear infections since I was young and couldn't breathe that well, and then couldn't hear that well either. So by the time I was 5, it was getting pretty bad. So then I had my tonsils removed. And soon after that, when my younger brother was born, and my mother went more into holistic health, and we met a chiropractor, naturopath. He was saying, well, look more into diet, even though she already suspected that and wanted to. But he confirmed it, and he was like, she should definitely not be having cow's milk. And that, when I stopped having cow's milk, like, then everything really changed. Even though I had had the surgery, my tonsils were removed, but I was still having breathing problems. So it was pretty obvious then. And then I also had a lot of sensitivity to eggs, just all the major allergens. My entire family, we had was eggs, milk, wheat, and certain things we kind of noticed when we tried to get more healthy. So like we started having whole wheat bread, and then everyone was having more disaster. And eggs, my father would always have because he was a pretty healthy guy and whatever. But that transition over my life was very interesting because I did have a lot of reactions when I was about 1 with the MMR shot. So I had that shot like 3 times in a row, major fevers every time. And my mom was suspecting some of the ingredients, and one of them was egg serum. So us all having these sensitivities to egg serum, I mean, eggs in general, maybe it was related, I'm not sure. I also had a lot of fillings and things when I was younger, so I had the Nella fillings. And then when I was about 18 and I had the fillings changed to composites, I did not have any more skin problems, and I was just eating milk and eggs. It seemed to be all right. So there's a lot of theories behind that. And one, I stayed away from these things for many, many years, which is how you can become a little stronger and then introduce a food again that might have bothered you before. The other thing, I do believe that even the smaller mercury fillings were emitting vapors, so it was always just weakening my system. And that I had Cushing's disease. So I had a pituitary tumor, and it was also telling the adrenals to make way too much cortisol most of my life. So I had all these things going on. So in general, I was just like very careful with what I would always eat. It was always pretty healthy, very organic, a lot of raw foods. I did raw food eatings at certain times, but it wasn't really the answer for me because I definitely needed some supportive fats because otherwise my skin would have a lot of problems. And then I was really into athletics and did the things in high school that were like cross country and track and swimming, and then skiing, not the downhill team, but the cross country racing team, figure skater, all these things. And some of it was just to keep my weight down because with Cushing's, you'll gain weight your entire life and there's just not much you can do about it because if you diet, your body's under more stress, you'll gain more weight. And I actually had a cyclical condition, so sometimes it seemed normal, sometimes it did not. And It was only when I had my daughter that I really knew something was wrong, because then the crazy purple stretch marks came. So when the purple stretch marks came and the buffalo hump on my back, and I had gone to a body worker in Vancouver to kind of do a emotional clearing type of session. At the end of it, I was just like, I'm not sure if that really did all my answers that I'm looking for. And she still had a medical training background as well. And she said to look into Cushing's. So she was one of the real help for me to help to understand what was going on. And that was when I was about 21, 22 years old. So that's at least 20 years ago now. So doing another allergy checking or sensitivity was good. So what came up was that raw celery was on the moderation list. So that means I'm having too much of it. And I could kind of sense that as well. So raw celery being on the moderation, shellfish was good for me now, which it always used to be a little bit of a sensitivity. So because I've avoided it for so many years, I think it's all right. Cow's milk did not even come up on the list, eggs neither, so that means they're fine. And I do eat eggs now and everything seems all right. I tend to stay away from milk just because of other issues still. And if anything, I'll try to have raw milk because it does seem to be better for me, raw whole milk or goat milk, and then sheep as well. So Dr. Gundry, he's been a pretty good influence on me in the last while because he talked about lectins. And even when we were younger, my mom already had looked into the blood type diet and eating that way. And it also talks about lectins and the inflammation or the irritation to your system. And foods with more of that can be more irritating. Now, some of the things which I was just avoiding because of Dr. Gundry's list were actually good for me. So it was kind of good to do this test because I found there's a little more open for me to eat, and I don't like that much restriction, even though I try to eat keto and low carb because I still will have to try to keep my weight down all of my life, even though I had the pituitary surgery. I think the pituitary can have the tumor eventually again, or else just you can have different recurrences of Cushing's. And I may be on that track, I don't really know. But I just know I am a person who I gain weight easily and I need to always be watching my foods. So this is why it's a little bit of a blessing in disguise that I've always had to, because I am passionate about that. I'm passionate about being happy about what you're eating, even if it is a specific special way, and always feeling good. So I know with certain things that I have now figured out on the list, I was kind of like, that makes sense. And one of them was guar gum. So xanthan gum is okay, guar gum is not okay, which is very interesting because it's in a lot of even the keto ice creams and things like that. And I don't really notice exactly, but I was feeling itchy. So get like urticaria or a little bit of small amount of hives. And for me, a lot of things show up in my skin. So my skin is very sensitive and I don't mind that because it's not one of the worst things. At least I'm not having breathing troubles or things like that, but it is very upfront and in your face. So I try to still be aware of what's messing up my skin. And my fingers are good now. So I did find that changing the food, changing my location, I moved to another place and I'm in Arizona now. So my fingers are good. I tried different creams. I'm with a couple of companies. I'm with It Works, which I like a lot of their products. They have a lot of keto products and the coffees and drinks and things. I can't really take too much caffeine, so I don't use those things. And then Melaleuca. So I've just joined Melaleuca and I've joined Hempworks, My Daily Choice. So those are good. I've tried some of their hand creams, which are good. Melaleuca's got a lot of good cleaning products, and I'm very happy to be using that because my family has always been into the healthy cleaning products. I'm glad they have them a lot more nowadays. Like Grove is doing a whole subscription thing. I think Melaleuca is a great company. I'm just not usually a big um, promoter to recruit. But anyway, I like them. If you want to try them, they're good. They have sucralose and aspartame in a few of their mints and things, which I don't agree with, but it's not too bad. Like you just got to look at the product lists, ingredient lists, and see which things work for you. But I think they have some really good options. So those were two things, the guar gum, the celery. Another surprise for me was the peppers. So green pepper, yellow pepper, not so good. Orange is okay. Cooked tomatoes, not good. Raw are all right, which I knew from a long time, like because it's another acidic thing, which will give me rash. When I was young, it would be all over my face, and I just didn't really like tomatoes. But now I like them because they're good in a lot of things like lasagnas and stuff. But anyway, I know how to do substitutes like you would not believe because I've been doing it all of my life. So that brings me to the next thing, and that is boosting your system. So your system, I think anyone's system on a purely physical level, let's just talk about food, I would say, if you know what things bother you, that is a great start. So I highly recommend some of these tests. The one is Modern Allergy Management. The other one I've seen is Everlywell. And these are things you can send in. I don't know if you do saliva. I did the one with hair, strands of hair that are close to my scalp. Some of them might do drops of blood. I'm not sure, but I think all of them are pretty good. So that I recommend for anyone. And I would actually do that for people if they're doing a coaching program with me. With the all included in the costs, I always try to get your astrology done, your numerology done, your food sensitivities, some of these things that are just like your body, your imprint is kind of like speaking. So I start with that. And I think people should definitely look into the food that they're putting into themselves and what might be missing. So the full comprehensive one does the minerals and things like that. So the minerals and vitamins that you might be missing, and it kind of did it like the things you absorb well and you kind of keep in your system, and the ones that you don't absorb that well, so you probably have to take them very often. So for me, magnesium was one of those, some of the vitamin Bs, and that does make sense, like kind of my history. So I would recognize that. Iron is a huge one. So iron, and the most of the iron panel is okay for me, but the ferritin is my weak spot. So in order to keep that at good high levels, I have learned from my sister's journey that iron absorbs very well with vitamin C. So I got some of the supplements that she's been using, and I've been using them as well with some pretty high vitamin C, and also vitamin C that has some of the orange peel, the white part, pulpy part of oranges and lemons and limes has the most vitamin C in it, actually. So this is included in that supplement, not only ascorbic acid. So ascorbic acid is good. It's just that it's like part of the shell of the full vitamin C molecule. I'm not sure. But anyway, if you can get a whole food source as well and have that into the capsules, they've said liposomal vitamin C is also really easily absorbed, so that is good. Some people who are in dire straits and they're really down, they can do the IV infusion of vitamin C. I've done an IV infusion of iron before. It was actually pretty helpful. But I do want to try to find a sustainable method that's not, I don't have to go every few months and do that. And I also need to find out why my body might not be keeping it. So that's why I think some of these links, they help. Just like potassium will help with vitamin D and calcium absorption. So, and magnesium, same thing. So those are all just things to learn. And there's a lot of really good people I follow on Facebook and all kinds of things. I follow people in videos on YouTube too, holistic people, astrological people, all that. But there's just so many good resources now for trying to keep yourself strong, especially right now when we kind of have to do it all in our own home. So what you're buying or ordering, if we can order anymore, I don't know if that's going to be possible, but there are many holistic people that I know. I know a bunch of holistic doctors, integrated medical doctors in my entrepreneur groups, as well as doctors that I've seen, my sisters have seen, and they just have really good recommendations for always keeping your system strong, from bioidentical hormones to the supplementation. So one of the big ones I just want to stress is vitamin C, because vitamin C is always a hormone, it's a immune system support and strengthener. And also it does help with a lot of issues if you do have something coming up. Having a lot of vitamin C in those times, vitamin C is very powerful, especially if it's absorbed well, like the liposomal one, and if it's a whole food source, even in the supplement. That helps a lot. So those are some things. And then on the other level, which is part of being holistic, and holistic is your physical, your spiritual, and your mental. And I consider emotional as like combined with the mental and spiritual, basically. So the emotional and energetic levels is kind of where I deal with the most. And that kind of needs a spiritual component of belief, basically. So it's just like we are a part of a much bigger picture, and I consider that like transcendent beyond time. So that's where it becomes a little more spiritual. And I think like this thing I read in the beginning, there's always something way bigger going on than, okay, we're going to be out of work for how many weeks, how many months, I don't know. That's not the main thing going on. So as much as it's scary to think that it's even bigger than it appears, I just think that's actually a little more hopeful, because the world and planet Earth and then the universe and ourselves are still very connected and very linked. So the world is going through its own transitions as well, and same with us, like we always are. And then if you look at astrology right now, it's very interesting just because some of these things have been building, and it's not like this is exactly what was predicted or anything. It's just the conjunction of certain planets, the squaring, some of the outer planets that take really long time to go around their entire cycle. When they meet up, those things don't happen in some people's lifetime, twice. So this is kind of big. And I just think it's very exciting to follow that, because could put some context to like what else might be going on beyond our own survival type of lives. And I think that it's a transformational moment. It's something that is changing our viewpoint because we have no choice. So everyone is home as much as you can be. We're doing this to flatten the curve. I totally agree. I just think it's monumental. Like, you have to acknowledge that this is everywhere, all at once. And I'm not too sure about southern countries, actually. So that's for something about heat and the sun. That's another thing that I wanted to recommend, that if you can, go outside for a walk. And even if you're with your families, but you can get into nature still, especially getting sun and some kind of outdoors activities, that may still be really good. And part of it is that we don't necessarily get that. And we've just come out of a winter. So in the Northern Hemisphere and all of that, that's could be a little bit of the weakness reasons, just because we don't get the vitamin D, we don't get the infusion of energy that sun really gives you, because we're inside for a lot of times. And I think the staying away, the social distancing and staying away from people doesn't have to mean you don't go outside. So I went for a walk. I'm in a place that isn't super crowded, so that's nice. And there were a few people on the trail, but basically, like, it's a way to get your mind off of it. It's also getting outside and if you're with family and kids, it's really great, actually, because it's kind of creating this connectedness, which I think is really nice. I'm actually so glad that I have these communities online, because I am an air sign and much of my chart is air and fire. So I'm usually in my head a lot, and there's a lot about communication, connection, sharing, thinking, learning, all this stuff. And then action fueled by all these fire planets that I have as well. So I've got one earth planet, that's Virgo, Venus and Virgo, and then a few water ones, and I think they're like Scorpio and Pluto. So those are always interesting. But anyways, I know a lot about myself, and I know how to manage my own emotions because of the way I am elementally. It's just like, I know that energy because I've been with myself for 44 years. So anyways, I understand now because I've also compared it with like my chart and my makeup and all this stuff. And even numerology can give you some clues about your tendencies or your destiny. So my birthday adds up to 33, which I add together to make 6. And that means my life path number is 33-6. And I have this healer service kind of purpose. So I think that makes a lot of sense, what I've ended up gravitating towards and the help I would like to do for people. And a lot of it for me is always the transmutation from my own experience. Now, I also have quite a few professional certifications in different types of body work and energy work, but I just think relating to people and understanding what you might be going through, that's actually the most powerful. So as much as I do in-person work with energy clearing to the chakras and balancing and body work like massage, and I also do hypnotherapy, I think that the online work is extremely powerful. So I did want to end most of my videos of this everyday type of thing that I'm trying to do, at least the weekdays, with a card reading. So I'm going to do the cards today, but sometimes I will use other types of divination tools. So some of the tools are runes. So runes are a Norse Viking mythology type of divination system. There's I Ching, which comes more from China, Chinese thought and Eastern traditions. There's tarot. Tarot made a whole kind of different transition. It actually started with an original card deck, I think. So it's pretty awesome. I'm learning more about tarot, which I really like. Hopefully I will do it more often and a little bit less with the guidebooks, but I have always defaulted to oracle cards. So oracle cards aren't exactly the tarot. They're more about symbolism, and either way, any of it just tunes into your own intuition, the connection from the universe, and your intention. So I could say this card reading is for me, but I can say the card reading is for all of us, anyone watching. And that's what my intention will be right now. Now, I have so many decks, not so many in live, like full physical form, but I have a lot of them on my phone because you can buy them on the phone. And when you get the app for a deck, then you shuffle it by swiping it around, and then you kind of close your eyes and go in and make your thought or your question. And then you pick them and they will flip around and you can read about them. So in this case, the decks are here with all the artwork and the book is what you read about. I usually read about them, and then I'll also say what it brings up for me and my thoughts, because the writing for the deck is extremely important. And I think especially Colette Baron-Reid's decks, I just really love her write-ups, and she's one I've taken her course with, and she's an amazing woman. I love her stuff. She really was a big influence on me even before I took the course. She was through the Hay House and Louise Hay's kind of authors and things like that. So the one year when I bought the summit, the Hay House World Summit, she did one of the 100 talks for an hour. So every day I was listening to these as I was driving my son to school and back. And it was just so helpful. It was just really, I love that she's downloaded kind of like the meaning of each deck for kind of the feeling of each deck, and it has its own flavor, and they can kind of work with each other as well. So I made some of them, like I'm flipping them around. You can't really see that, I'm a terrible shuffler. But anyway, I don't like to ruin the cards either. So I'm shuffling, I'm also flipping some over, because when a card comes up upside down, then that is in a protection position. And it's a position that tells you, it's almost like don't do this, do this, or we're protecting you by saying, let's just not go that direction. So it's not necessarily bad, and it's called reverse just because it's upside down, but it's not bad. It's just a different direction. So protection. So I will do the 3 cards and just say what is coming up for Thursday. Today's the 19th. Thursday, March 19th, 2020. Day 3, 4, I guess 4 for some people in the quarantine. Not really quarantine. I'm just in the somewhat self-isolation and social distancing. So it's not really a bad stage. First card, it's reversed. So Wizard of Awareness. I'm just going to put them down and then I'll read about them. Next card. Let me shuffle a bit more. Next card. So this is kind of like the main theme, the first card. And then I often did the middle card was like it's the go ahead or the restriction a little bit on the other theme. This is slow and steady, upright. And then the last one is a bit like the outcome, or it's like a little bit of a summary for the card. And sometimes I'll just do the cards or something, like I won't do too much else. This one is upside down. Coming apart. Okay, so I'm going to read these. I'm also going to add up the numbers after. So individually, the Wizard of Awareness is 3. Slow and Steady is 12, which adds up to 3. Coming Apart is 46, which adds up to 10, which is 1. And so that's a 3, 3, and a 1. That would be a 7. And 7 is actually a spiritual number, about spirituality. And 3 is a very creative number and expressive, usually. So here we go. 7. So Wizard of Awareness. Your soul knows best. Be still and observe. That's kind of amazing that that's the theme. So this is for all of us and me. I need to definitely trust right now, because I can also go into panic mode and anxiety, anxious, depression, all kinds of strange modes if I don't catch myself. So your soul knows best, be still and observe. That's the main theme. Now I'm going to go to the reverse version. So the Wizard of Awareness comes to you in this position to warn you that too much force behind a desire for a specific outcome robs you of a true and full experience. Step back, take your energy away from your situation, and focus on gratitude for the ever-changing conditions of life. Are you perhaps trying to control the outcome of something because you don't trust in the highest good? Meditate, be still, and your answer will come without any effort on your part. Be a neutral observer and see how this moment is but a small marker on the map of your life's journey. I like that one. So, we have to be grateful for the ever-changing conditions of life. Enjoy fully our present. That is a challenge. I do believe. Slow and Steady. This is the middle card that was upright. Snail fairy. Okay, let me see. Sorry. But yeah, I don't have too much to add for the Wizard of Awareness, because that totally makes sense to me. Just to try to understand, I mean, take the opportunity, what we're doing, what we need to do right now, and be in, and actually be in it, and enjoy our families, friends, reading. I mean, not friends probably, but that's your roommates. Family, reading, learning new things. Slow and steady wins the race. Upright. Remember the old cliche, slow and steady wins the race. This is a time for easy movement, unhurried steps, and a steady heart. Trust that taking life at a more leisurely pace will give you greater access to your dreams. Slowing down allows more contact with the juicier elements of your life. Savor them. See, I love the cards because they're just amazing how accurate they are for what we need to hear right now. At any time you do them, they're always right. One of the things on the back of the I Ching book that I learned the I Ching with, I mostly know it from that book, which is kind of an abbreviated way to do it. And it said, like, whenever they had their own stories, they have a lot of case studies in the book, and the husband and wife said, if we ignored the I Ching, It was to our own peril. It's just, it is so slow and steady. We're slowing down. There's no choice right now, unless you're maybe in hospital or emergency care. But to really savor what's happening, we may never have this again. And it's just kind of an opportunity to really, like I said, like learn something, do some things that you haven't had time for, get into the things that aren't always with other people. And there's a whole meditative effect that would really help people's immune systems, their anxiety, the calmness, and just having kind of a morning routine, going out into nature, doing these breathing things, like, which is always a suggestion of mine, because that's how we help our own regenerative cellular properties to continue to do their own regeneration, as well as clearing blockages yourself without even having to see a body worker. If you're doing some kind of I Ching practice or yoga, that it does a lot for that. So let me get back to this last one. So this was kind of the help or the hindrance. Like, that's how I see the middle card for a lot of readings that I do. It doesn't have to be, it can be in other ways as well. But I consider it more like the help in this case. And to slow down and enjoy as much as you can right now. Now, this last one would kind of be seen as the outcome or what's coming, maybe, but that was coming apart, and it looks like this. It's kind of like two people in the shell, in the mask, the top of the mask, and it's reversed, so it's this way. I'll give you that. Coming apart, now is the time to take separate paths. The situation is unraveling, and your best plans are leading you into a tricky maze. Your challenge is to separate out the elements of this puzzle, to get a better perspective on what happened. You may have lingered too long in a place where you didn't belong anymore, seduced by a temporary solution. As you untangle yourself, it's important to maintain a sense of humor. Don't fret. You will learn something valuable that you'll need later when faced with a more dangerous situation. Breathe and know that you are loved. That's kind of uncanny and perfect as well. I do think this applies to all of us. It's kind of like, as a society, like I read in the beginning with this nice piece of writing, that what we may have been doing, it's not sustainable and it is not working anymore. So this kind of volunteer-ish, forced-ish isolation it's the separation. And for me, it is significant individually for me as well, because I have been defaulting to the body work. So like I was saying, I have been still going to California quite a bit for the previous massages that I still do. And I am building a new clientele in Arizona, but really my whole goal is to create an online community and to have so much more online so that it doesn't matter which state or which country I'm in. And I do have a podcast, I do have the video YouTube channel, but I was not consistent. So it was just so sparse how I'm doing that. So this is like a real goal for me right now. It's this separation, the coming apart of what I was doing. It was kind of working, it was temporary, but right now it can't work. Like, I can't have people coming to me. I can't go to them. It's just, this is not possible. So I did make some Patreon accounts. If people want to support me, great. I don't necessarily have a whole lot of followers, but I would like to build it, and I do want to make some more special content for those people who are supporting. And I'm just looking at all kinds of avenues, and I know that a huge one is the consistency of putting out lots of content and just trying to connect with the audience and really, like, I don't want to feel alone, and I don't want you to as well. I don't want people to worry. I don't want people to go into those dark places that I go into sometimes, unless it is good. It is good and transformative to do that occasionally, as long as you know how to move through it. That's what I think is the helpful part. And when I have my, I don't know, it's always like a frustration depression. I don't really get depressed as in I'm thinking I'm no good or any of that. I just feel like the things I was so hopeful for, then they were dashed and they're just really not working. And then I worked so hard for certain things and they really don't work. Now, in some ways, I know that that's like a guidance. It's almost like the card that is reversed. It's telling you, this is not really right yet. This is not the way. So keep doing some things, keep trying other things. That's why I love to use the cards and for other people when I do a reading with them or I do a coaching thing with them, because the cards are the universe talking to you, and it's your universal connection with the universe. It's just not me. I don't have to come up with my own only opinions, and you don't have to work on those. Basically, you can always not listen to any of it, even the universe's guidance. But I think that having these tools can really help to sort of get clarification with things that are not working, things that are working, and things like that. So, as I always say, try to get some help if you are feeling like you need it. Don't try to do everything alone. I did that for much of my life, and it's really hard. So, and I had support. I know I always had my family support, but certain things I just thought I had to do it myself. I also have so many cardinal planets and things that are like autonomy and got to do it yourself and leader and all this stuff. So that's my own challenge. And I have a 33 life path. So that's like a life path that asked for challenge. So anyways, those are all very exciting things to me. I just like to know some meaning of it all. But I would be really welcoming any of your requests if you want to go to my website. My website is robinmdegroot.com, ROBINM, like Mary, Degroot, DEGROOT.com. And you can check out the services. There's a lot of big programs, but there's also just the 125. You can do the online hour, and I can totally just do some readings with you. I can hear where you're at, give some suggestions, all those type of things, just to try to have some kind of hashing it out right now. And subscribing helps tremendously, and sharing the videos as well. So subscribing to YouTube, subscribing to any of my social media. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook for sure. I have the business page on Facebook. And I will put this video for sure on YouTube, but I will also put the audio on my podcast. And my podcast is TLC, Truth, Love, Creativity. And it is on iTunes for sure, and I think it's on a few others that is sent out by the podcast player, and it's on my website. So if you don't find it for some reason, then go through my website, and just like as another tab for services, there's media, there's about me, there's podcasts. So you could click on that and read some of them. I mean, listen to some of them. but they should come up on your phone in whatever podcast player you have. So I hope to be doing more very consistently. And tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, which is the same as Pacific right now. Pacific. So the radio show, which is going to be on businesstalkradio1.com, or just, I think it's on iHeartRadio. I'm not sure. I have to check where you find it, but you can definitely listen to it from your computer and your phone, probably from the actual link, businesstalkradio1.com. And I'll have the first half-hour interview of 4, which are going to be on these Fridays at 1, I'm pretty sure, 1 p.m. If that's wrong, I will update it. I'll put it out on my website, hopefully, link, and also on some of the social media. So please subscribe. Thank you. Share. I love you all.